Hey, what's up there, Cape Cod? Another Living on Cape Cod video here. I am John DeLellis, your CapeCod.com, Keller Williams Cape Cod and Colonial Partners. So, believe it or not, some of the most frequent questions that people ask me, especially if they're moving out of state, are what is it like living here on Cape Cod? It's a tough question because depending on what you're coming for or what you're coming from, it can vary differently and greatly differently. But if you're just planning to move to Cape Cod because it's what you want to do, here are a couple things that you should probably know. Most frequently asked questions are, what's the cost of living? So again, that's a roundabout question. The cost of living here is 100% completely up to you. You can make it as cheap as possible, or you can make it as expensive as possible. As you understand, Cape Cod can be a tourist destination, so eating out, restaurants, different activities can cost more. However, you're not obligated to do those activities, so it can be as cheap as you make it. I think it was a study in 2021 said the average family needs to make about $9,700 a month in order to survive on Cape Cod. Now here we are in 2024, that has increased over the last few years, so you're probably looking more around the $12,000 mark. So yeah, an average family here, in order to survive, would probably need to make around $150,000 to live a, quote, average lifestyle. Doesn't mean you can't make less, doesn't mean you can't make more. However, I know living here on Cape Cod, family of four, 2 kids in school sports, different activities, aftercare programs, summer camp, all those yada yadas. Yeah, it can be absolutely expensive, and that doesn't include the going out to eat once in a while, vacation once every year or two maybe. But yeah, it can certainly add up. So yeah, I would say that the average family probably needs somewhere between $120,000 and $150,000 to survive normally. That doesn't mean that you can't survive on less. It just means that you do less. Jobs. Are there jobs down here? Yeah, of course there are jobs. Big thing down here now is the medical industry. If you are in the medical field, Cape Cod Hospital, Falmouth Hospital, even beyond that, there is nursing care and nursing homes. The population age of Cape Cod can be quite elderly. Not to say that there aren't families down here, because there certainly are. There's actually a big population of I guess you could call it millennial group, into the Gen X group. Not so much in the Gen Z, or what's the new one, Gen Alpha. Those kids have kind of moved off, but eventually maybe they'll come back. But yes, there are jobs down here. Medical field, like I said, that's a huge one with the aging population here on Cape Cod. If you're in the industry, tourism is the big thing. So restaurants and entertainment of that sort, but typically that's seasonal. You're not going to make a ton of money doing it unless you are a business owner of sorts. You can end up making a lot of money if you're a bartender in the summertime, working, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday nights. Yeah, it's going to be tough work, but you can make a killing in the summertime being a bartender here on Cape Cod. Other than that, there are some industries. You have Onset Computer Corporation over in Pecasset. You have SenCorp in Hyannis. You have other sort of nonprofits that are around. You have the International Fund for Animal Welfare. Their operation center is here on Cape Cod. So yeah, there are a lot of jobs. A lot of people who move down here recently are either working remotely, have a remote job, or are moving here for a career move, whether they are doing an engineering career move or a architecture. I know I'm working with someone right now who's moving from across country because they're taking a job at a engineering firm out here. So yeah, the jobs are here, but do a lot of people travel off Cape? Yeah, they do, or they find the remote work. Another big question here, one of the most asked questions, is safety. How safe is Cape Cod? This is actually something that was just brought up on a lot of people use the Nextdoor app, and that's actually a big thing with the locals down here. They use the Nextdoor app. Yeah, there are crimes on Cape Cod, and a lot of people coming from out of state kind of, pull back when, and I'm a real estate agent, so I am 100% honest, sometimes maybe too honest. I've had a lot of people looking in particular areas, and I'll never steer them away from buying in a particular spot. But I'm 100% honest, and people appreciate that when I tell them that, yeah, there can be certain parts of, say, Hyannis that have a lot more crime than, say, North Chatham. But yeah, there is a drug use population down here. There is a large crime population down here, and just like anywhere, if you live in any urban city, one neighborhood 5 minutes from the next can be completely different, and it's no different down here. On Cape Cod, 5 minutes down the road, there could be a kind of an epicenter of crime and whatnot and drugs. And 5 minutes the other way, there are multi-million-dollar mansions that are, surrounding the beach. So yeah, there's crime here on Cape Cod, but when you know where to be and where not to be, then yeah, you'll be safe. That is a big thing. Weather. People always say, it doesn't snow on Cape Cod. No, it certainly snows here on Cape Cod. Does it last a long time? Not usually. If it snows here, it'll be on and gone sometime, usually 3 days. If we get a big storm, yeah, it could stick around, but it does definitely snow here. We have kind of cooler summers. The summers typically are in the high 70s. If it gets to like above 85, almost 90 degrees, it's wicked hot. But typically here in the summertime, Cape Cod sees 75 to 80 degrees. We do get fog down here. We are, you've heard of Nantucket being called the Gray Lady. Chatham particularly gets a lot of fog in the early summertime. I like it. It's kind of cool, but it usually burns off by July. But it does get cold here in the winter. We are surrounded by salt water, so we usually stay a little bit warmer in the winter than, say, the off-Cape side, in the Plymouth, Boston, Southeast Massachusetts. But we don't get as warm in the winter. Sometimes you can see Worcester will get to, negative 10 degrees when we're, 30 degrees out here. But in the summertime, they'll hit 90 degrees and we're at 75. So we're protected a little bit from because of the ocean. People always ask, what are the parts of Cape Cod? Why do they call them different things? As you can see above me here, the bicep, this is, what we call kind of the arm of Cape Cod. It looks like a flexing bicep. Right here would be what's referred to as Upper Cape. Here is Mid Cape. Right here is Lower Cape. And then up here towards the very end is what we refer to as Outer Cape. So you have Upper, Mid, Lower, and Outer Cape. Why it's referred to that, I have no idea. It just kind of is. You could say, and again, why do we call Upper Cape is kind of the lowest part, and Outer Cape and Lower Cape. I don't know. It's just the way it is. But so if you're looking to buy here on Cape Cod and kind of what area, you can tell your real estate agent, you could say, hey, I'm going to be commuting up to, just south of Boston for a job. I really want to live on Cape Cod. So I want to kind of live in the Upper Cape area. So you're right here at the Cape Cod Canal where, commuting is easy. If you're not looking for an easy commute, maybe you're looking, you're have a remote job and you want to have kind of that peaceful serenity, not much besides like sand dunes type of Cape. You might want to look over this side, Lower Cape, Lower and Outer Cape, where it'll take you from, this point to this point. It can take you about 40-45 minutes just to get off Cape. Never mind in the summertime that, the traffic is just, unbelievable trying to get off Cape on different times of the week. So it all depends on where you want to be, but that's a good, point of reference to understand, and if you have kind of an understanding of your bicep, you can just put your arm up and say, I want to live here, I want to live here, I want to live here. So that's another good thing. Why do we have so many rotaries? Again, I don't know. We just have rotaries here. We have, the 2 rotaries coming on Cape. We have rotaries all over the place. One thing I have to say is learn how to use the rotaries before coming here. Traffic that's merging onto the rotary yields to rotary traffic. I heard that's different in different states and different areas, but traffic merging onto the rotary yields to rotary traffic. So if you're pulling up to it, make sure you stop, make sure it's safe to proceed. I remember watching a Mythbusters episode one time, and they talked about our rotaries actually more efficient than like 4-way stops or stops in general. And it turns out, yes, they are. So, yeah, we have a lot of rotaries down here. We have, 4 or 5 off the top of my head. Then we have a bunch of smaller ones that are in and amongst the areas. What is Cape Cod known for? Well, if people are thinking for Cape Cod, typically they think of beaches and clam shacks, which is 100% true. Cape Cod for me is a little bit different for those people who maybe just vacation here every year. Cape Cod for me, is about, family togetherness. It's a spot that is absolutely amazing year round, regardless of what you are doing. In the off season, there is a big culture of community here on Cape Cod that the summer residents will never know about until they maybe move here full time. But there is a huge community culture here. My kids are in youth sports. There's a huge culture around that. We know many of the families and people who live here. A lot of them are generational families that live here. So yeah, there is a huge community here on Cape Cod. When you're thinking summertime, Cape Cod, of course, beaches, tourism, clam shacks, that's pretty much everywhere. Main streets on Cape Cod. Now you give Main Street Hyannis, Main Street Osterville, Main Street Chatham, Main Street Provincetown. There's just main streets everywhere. And they're like, the little shops, little t-shirt places and stuff to buy. Mini golf, like Mini Golf Central would be kind of that Yarmouth Dennis area of Route 28. There's a mini golf course every, I think it's about 14 feet. There's a lot to do as well. I actually recently had a client that purchased a home up here that they, plan to move to in the next 5 years as permanent residents. And they were big antiquers and thrift shoppers. And so they kind of relied on me, and they said, is there a lot to do with antiques? And Cape Cod has tons of thrift shops, tons of antique shops. One of the kind of Cape Cod charms of being one of the, I guess, oldest parts of the state here. There's a ton of antiques. There's a ton of thrift shops, and all different types of thrift shops. There's the typical Salvation Army and Goodwills, to all the way to the mom and pop boutique thrift shops, which are great. My family loves going to those. There's a lot to do. So lastly, I will leave you with, one of the biggest questions that I get is, why do people love Cape Cod so much? I kind of described it. There's a lot of reasons. If you live here, you would understand. I'm a technical wash ashore is what they call me. I was born and raised in Boston. However, came down here just before high school, so kind of accepted into the community with the kids I grew up with that were all, born and bred Cape Codders. You have to be born here in order to be considered a, quote, Cape Codder. Otherwise, you're a Washershore. I am a Washershore, but when I left for college and came back, I said I would never come back to Cape Cod. I didn't want to come back. It was hard adjustment when I first moved here. And of course, here I am back on Cape Cod. Absolutely love it. Raising a family here and would, hopefully never leave. I always want to have a spot here on Cape Cod. A lot of people love Cape Cod for its quiet and quaint charm. It does have a good quiet charm. Is there some big business and industry that is popping up places? Yeah, of course, but it's just mixing with the times. Most of Cape Cod, take town of Sandwich for example. The tax rate's a little bit higher in Sandwich. Reason being is that they don't allow a lot of big business to move in. They try to keep it as quaint and quiet as possible. Same thing in the outer Cape region. You're not going to find too many huge businesses out there. The mid Cape region where I live here, I particularly like it. I like being 10 minutes from the Home Depot or 10 minutes from the epicenter of Hyannis Main Street. I like it. I live in Centerville. It's a wonderful community. About 5 minutes from Hyannis. It's 5 minutes from the highway. Again, Centerville. It's kind of like the center of everything. But it's a nice community. There's Centerville's where Craigville Beach is, one of my favorite beaches. I think one of the best beaches on Cape Cod. But people like Cape Cod for many reasons, because of the beaches, because of the quaintness, because of the lighthouses, because of the conservation trails, because of the nightlife during the summer, because of the fishing. My website is yourcapecod.com, and that's what it means. It's your Cape Cod. You make of it what you want to make of it. That is Cape Cod for you. When you move to Cape Cod, you'll find that you become one of the neighbors. There's more Washershores than what you'd actually believe. You become one of the neighbors, and it's a very welcoming place. I remember moving down from Boston. One of the funny things that my family adjusted to, coming out of the city, was that when you go for a walk down the canal, all of a sudden everyone who you pass just waves hi and says hello, and you don't know who they are. They just say, "Hey, how are you? Good to see you." And that's the thing. Kind of was, say, "Oh, hi, do I know you?" No, I just saying hi. That's what people do down here. Most people are extremely friendly. Again, if you have any questions about living on Cape Cod, I'll try to make a series of videos. Otherwise, feel free to reach out to me, especially if you are looking for a home, buying or selling on Cape Cod. Yourcapecod.com, 508-241-4100. Again, I am John DeLellis, yourcapecod.com realtor.